You're listening to the Bird Dog Babe podcast with my mom, Courtney Bastion.
I hunt just like you, just like our goals are the same. How we get there, whether we are male or female, are completely different. And I think that kind of ties us back to the beginning. Mm-hmm. You know, I hunt to the fruition of a harvest. You hunt to the fruition of a harvest. A man hunts to the fruition of a harvest. But in the middle, how you get there defines who you are. Whether it's ethical or unethical, whether it is bow hunting or rifle, whether it is whatever it is, at the end of the day, what came of it? What lessons did you learn? Or did you get a harvest? Those are the victories. And we all are hunting toward that same goal.
Hey, bird dog babes. My name is Courtney Bastion, and I am obsessed with all things bird dogs. And I'm here with you to share the stories, experiences, knowledge, and opinions from the women and a few guys in the industry that are killing it. I'm a Wisconsin girl living in a Montana world. I'm momming 2 incredible kiddos, wife and occasional assistant to a pro gun dog trainer, traveling the U.S. talking about canine nutrition while hunting, breeding, and competing with my German wire hair pointers and Bracco Italianos. As someone who started hunting later in life because I wanted to give my dogs the opportunity to do what they were bred to do, I'm here to help inspire, educate, and connect women to get their bird dogs out in the field and experience a bond like no other. So pour yourself a glass of wine and get ready to be challenged and encouraged while you learn. This is the Bird Dog Babe podcast. My guest today is Amy Hall. Amy is primarily a big game hunter who is also a podcaster, wife, and mom. She is passionate about ethical hunting and mentoring new hunters. We get into several topics in this episode about being a hunter, a hunting mom, and hunting wife. I enjoyed this conversation with Amy and appreciate how transparent and authentic she is. All right, let's get after it. Thank you to sponsor Dakota 283, unparalleled protection for traveling to and from your favorite hunting spot. Dakota 283 kennels are a premium quality roto-mold with recessed handles on top for convenient and safe tie-down and makes it easy to lift up into the truck. I love the secure door frame with high security locks so I know my dogs are safe when I need to stop for fuel. An added bonus is the drain hole in the back, which makes cleaning a breeze when your dog has been run hard and put away wet. Head over to Dakota283.com and use promo code BirdDogBabe for a 10% discount. Thanks to sponsor Xcel Shooting Sports, elite dealer of Caesar Guarini, Fab Arm, and Siren shotguns. Siren is the world's only full line of shotguns created for the female competitor, hunter, and shotgun enthusiast. Xcel is one of only 4 demo centers west of the Mississippi. They give you the opportunity to actually try out a gun before you walk out the door with it. As an elite dealer for Caesar Guarini, Xcel offers their customers unlimited pit stops of free service and tune-ups on all shotguns. A great way to have your gun in top condition for the upcoming hunting or target season. In addition, they're offering an exclusive deal to all of the Bird Dog Babe listeners for a free gun slip with each purchase, a $90 value. Good morning, Amy, and welcome to the podcast.
Hey, thank you for having me on. I'm excited.
I am as well. So you are a big game hunter, so this is a little bit different conversation or guest that I have on, but I listen to your podcast and I love your messages. And I just think, I can relate to so much about what you talk about and just listening to your guests because I really enjoy just listening to women who hunt, regardless of whatever it is that they're chasing after. And the passion that comes through when they share their story and, why they're doing it. So, so thank you. Yeah. You're
welcome.
I'm looking forward to this.
I'm excited. I'm very excited. I think just what you said, that it resonates with me because of that passion. And like you said, no matter how different we hunt, as long as it's ethical and passionate and honest and translucent, I think that support goes both ways.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And, being yourself as a host to do two different podcasts, what is it? And you interview men as well. So
Mm-hmm.
what is it do you feel is special or different that you enjoy talking to so many women about this subject?
It kind of started back. I have now hosted 3 podcasts, and the first one was just a guest spot hosting for a podcast that was male hosted. And the gentleman who asked me to guest host for a few episodes said, I can sympathize with women and I can have women on, but I can't empathize with them. I can't get on that same level. And so it started there. And I enjoyed it so much, hearing stories and listening and learning and growing myself, that I thought, okay, this can't stop. I need this, whether other people need to hear it or not. I do. And I might as well put it out there for others to hear, just because we all hunt differently, male and female. Each man does not hunt the same way as another guy. And I don't hunt the same way my husband hunts, but I also don't hunt the same way you hunt. And there's a lot of growth that can come from hearing from people who aren't just like you. And I think that that's a positive benefit to hearing people's stories. And so there's just passion behind hearing and learning and growing from women around me, because if they can do it, whether I do it like them or not, I can do it. And that's kind of how it all began.
I read somewhere that women are born with empathy, compassion, and a double dose of intuition. And really, it's right.
Yeah. Add some stubbornness in there and you've got the full package.
A little touch of bitch and badass, as I think, these women that are out there hunting.
100%.
But, I think when you can be on that same level, and I listen to, the interviews between men and women, and they're fantastic, I think. But that's why I enjoy your podcasts, because it's woman with woman, and there's a little bit something different in it.
Yeah.
And so
I do. I think that's the men that I've talked to. I've talked to a gentleman who has 3 daughters, who is preparing for raising daughters in hunting. And I've talked to men who employ women in their hunting business, and the standard that they hold for honesty and integrity and respect for oneself. And so there are great men out there who, I admit, men grew me as a hunter. And
Absolutely.
I appreciate the men in my life who have encouraged that and encouraged that passion, but also stepped back and allowed me to make it my own. And I think that those are the men that need to be highlighted as a part of our lives, and see the strength that comes from that on both sides of the sex. And it's just, it's great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I want my listeners to get to know you a little bit. Before we continue on tackling these awesome topics I'm excited to get forward with. But do you consider yourself an adult onset hunter yourself?
I am 40 years old, and I've been hunting for about 7 years. Well, I got my hunter's license, or my hunter safety. I went through hunter safety about 7.5 years ago. I didn't get my first deer for 2 years. It was crazy. Mainly because when I started, we had young kids, and so in order for me to hunt, I had to hunt solo. So my first hunt out all by myself was, hey, here's what you need. Here's how you need to do it. Good luck. So it was kind of a baptism by fire, jumping in.
Sure.
Had
you gone with like a mentor to watch beforehand to even, okay.
No, nothing. And
Oh,
this was before, being on Instagram as a hunter. This was before really knowing any women who hunted. And so it was kind of plowing the field ahead of me, very difficultly taking those steps and figuring out what worked, because like I said, my husband hunted before, but he knew that I was stubborn enough to need to know what tools I had to have in my tool belt in order to get out there and do it, but I needed to figure it out on my own. And so it was a lot of YouTube videos, reading, and just figuring out what works. So no, I had nobody. I had never seen a harvest before. I had seen a harvest after it had been taken, but I had never seen one taken before I took my own. And I don't know. I think, and we can talk about it a little bit more later, but I think that was why I put a rule in place when my kids started hunting, that they needed to see an actual harvest first before they took their own. There's a lot of processing that went on with me, not in a negative way, but I think it would have helped to have seen one first.
Right.
Yeah.
And I mean, I'm thinking of putting myself in that position that you were in, where all the emotions that flood and you being there by yourself.
Yeah.
That must have been emotional, spiritual. I mean, all the things.
All the things, whether, all of the mental things that it went through, all of the emotional things that it went through, but then the physicality of that just happened. My body is shaking, that adrenaline rush right after it happens, and just taking it all in before letting somebody else know, hey, this just happened. It was something I won't forget ever.
And did you do the gut process right there by yourself? How did you work that out?
So at that point in time, I did make a phone call, and I had my husband come out and walk me through together, like, hey, this is what you need to do, but I was doing it. It also was one of those situations where I hit shoulder, like right behind the shoulder, but I was shooting up with, and so when the arrow went through, it went in a diagonal when I hit, and it clipped a little bit of gut. So it was one of those, okay, I can't take my time with this. This has got to be quickly taken care of. And it was phone a friend, help.
Yeah.
And at the time, I was grateful for that. So gratefully that I had somebody to walk me through that process. But since being fully independent and doing everything on my own, there's some power that comes from that on the inside. That confidence is pretty cool. I think that we as hunters get the longer that we hunt. Never perfect, right?
Right.
But confidence helps a lot.
Yeah. So are you mainly bow hunting and not rifle?
Yes. So I started with a crossbow. Here in Tennessee, you can use a crossbow without a disability permit or anything like that. So I started with a crossbow. Where we hunted, honestly, for the first 6 years, 6 years, it was private land in the city, within city limits. And so there was no gun hunting. So we had to figure out, if we're going to hunt, this is how we're going to do it. And I still, and people have a hard time believing this, but I still have not taken a deer with a gun.
Wow.
I'm kind of hoping that happens this year. A lot of people do it vice versa. They take their first animal with a rifle or a muzzleloader, and I'm coming at it backwards. And so, yeah, I'm actually right after this going out and onto some public land and hunting with a muzzleloader. So I'm hoping that
Nice.
maybe today will be the first harvest with something like that.
Well,
Yeah.
good luck with that. That's very
Thank
exciting.
you.
Are the
Yeah.
kids going to come with you today?
I've got one coming with me today.
Okay.
So my youngest harvested his first deer last year, just shouldered the rifle and took a shot and dropped the deer. It was amazing.
Wow.
We were so excited. My daughter has not harvested yet, and she's looking forward to it, but rifle season hasn't started yet, and it starts tomorrow. So hopefully within the next couple of weeks, she can get her first harvest. But she has gone with me more than my son has, and I couldn't ask for a better hunting buddy. I've really enjoyed having her along with me.
How old are your kids?
So I've got one that's 10 and one that's 12, almost 13. So we're about to hit the teenage years.
Oh, fun.
Right.
Very fun. So they've gone through the hunter safety then, obviously. And what was their experience with that?
They both did it at the same time. And I'm glad that we did it that way. Just because, it's kind of like, let's just get it all done at one time. Tennessee has a great license opportunity for kids under a certain age. You can get a lifetime license for under $300.
Wow.
So when they were 2, that was a gift that was given to them. And so other than, your duck stamp or specialty license that you have to have on the side, they're completely taken care of for life in our state.
That's amazing.
Yes. It's
even
something
if they move out of the state, they can come back anytime and use that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Amazing. I
know. It's such a great gift to be able to give kids. And I think that people should, if you've got that opportunity. Right now, if I were to get a lifetime license, it would be, now don't quote me on this, I'd really have to look it up, but I believe it's over $2,000.
Right.
So to be able to jump on that ahead of time and to have that, all they needed was hunter safety. And honestly, up to age 12, they didn't have to have hunter safety, but we required it from them.
Okay. Right.
And it was fun. It was fun to see them go through the course. It reminded me of when I went through the course. My daughter was the only girl. I was the only girl in the class. And it was sweet to see both of their minds go through it and ask different questions. And you could see kind of where both of their minds were going through it. And it was really cool. I love that class.
Were you the only adult in the class when you took it?
Yeah, it was close. There were a few in there, but it was a lot of kids when I was going through it. Yeah.
Yeah. I was the only girl in general in the class. And yeah, it was me and a bunch of 12-year-old boys. And I remember it was a fantastic class.
Yeah.
I think it was 10 or 12 weeks. And then each week was a different venue that we focused on. There was archery, then, bird dog segment that I got to help with. So that was cool. But it was nice that they took the time to do that. I know right now it's a nice way for new hunters to get into it because they can take the online classes and get certified. But there really is nothing like having that on-hand experience.
100%.
Yeah, to be able to really learn. I know they went through all the different types of shotguns with us and how to load them. And how do you teach somebody that right now?
You can't. And I think, honestly, with kids especially, no, not even with kids, with any hunter that's going to be out there, it's the same for carry classes, that hands-on instructors can teach you things that you cannot learn off of a computer. There's just no way.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
Whether it's safety or whether it's, I mean, the questions that the kids asked in the classroom, the adults were going, yeah, I probably needed to know that answer. And I don't think it would have equated with a completely online class. Ours is half and half. So you do online class and then you go to a classroom, but now COVID has turned it all to online.
mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a different approach for
world.
sure.
I
Right.
know. Yeah.
So you took yours 7 years ago. Is that what you said?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And what inspired you to even start or want to give hunting a try?
It's a funny question or it's a funny answer because I grew up in a hunting community, but didn't ever get an invitation to hunt. It was just not, my family weren't hunters at the time. My direct, line of friends weren't. And yet I lived in and went to school in a place that was very agricultural and hunting friendly. So when I married my husband and we had kids, it was one of those situations where he was going out in the quiet of the woods for hours on end, and I had 2 toddlers at home and thought, man, it'd be really nice to be able to have some time to myself.
100%.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
that's kind of how my mindset started.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not ashamed to say that because it is what it is. But that is how I got my foot in the door. Now, the first morning that I sat at a tree and watched the world wake up, I was hooked.
Mm-hmm.
That was it. I didn't harvest a deer for 2 years, and yet I was hooked that first morning. It changed even my mindset going into it of why I was there. And it just became a peaceful place to not just escape, but to heal and kind of strengthen myself and work on myself. There's a lot of inner thinking when you're out there and a lot of growth. And I think my husband would even agree to it if he heard this, that I became a more confident person the longer I hunted.
Mm-hmm. I can 100% relate with that. And, you often hear people say, I come up with my best ideas when I'm in the shower.
Mm-hmm.
That's your 10 minutes of quiet time, right?
Yeah.
A day.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so multiply that by several hours of just quietness. And, I'm fortunate here. I don't have, so there's no cell phone towers. Like you think, holy cow, is there really somewhere in the world where you can't get cell phone reception? Yep, there is.
Yeah.
There is. And it's a hour radius right around our house. And so when I go out hunting, I have no connections. And so I don't have that, where I need to turn my phone on or I need to check my emails. And I'm literally forced to just shut it off and focus on what I'm doing out there. And so when the turkeys aren't coming in, your mind starts going places. And I've started to bring or either pen and paper, something I just write down ideas and thoughts on because my mind is always moving. So it's that really nice time to be able to just stop and connect and not listen to toddlers screaming for a couple hours.
Yeah, there's a bit of peace from it. And it's not just, mine started with toddlers, but mine are older now and I really enjoy them. And so even getting away by myself, there's still, it's a focus back on, okay, what do I need to be working on? Because we're hunting this year in a spot that doesn't have cell service, and unless you climb to the top of the hill. And so I've got that moment. So when I'm hunting solo right now in that spot, I have that as well. And it's such a great But then take it into taking the kids with us now.
Mm-hmm.
That's 4 to 6 hours, sometimes longer, that we have uninterrupted just us,
Right.
one-on-one. Or so I've been known to take both of them at the same time, which is not a great idea, but we've done it. And it's a way that you can't speak loud. You have to whisper. You have to learn each other's body cues. You've got to rely on each other. And I think that I'm a full believer in I'm your parent, not your best friend,
Yes.
as my parenting style. But there is such a thing as partnership in the woods that we're learning together, instead of there's a mentor mentee situation going on. And I think that kind of creates a different type of relationship we apply to what we're doing here. And it's a great, again, take away electronics, take away internet, take away all of that. And it's just a way to slow down with each other.
Right. So, Amy, give us a peek into your blind. When you have one with you or two kids with you, what are you guys doing in that downtime? Because I mean, even 10 and 12-year-olds are getting bored, right? And so you have to keep them entertained. You have to want to keep them excited about what you're doing there and to be able to come back next time. And so you have all the things of, I mean, it's hard for me to relate to those ages because I have a 2 and 6-year-old. So right now it's like, keep them warm, fill them with snacks.
Right.
And let's use their imagination and hunt dinosaurs. But what are you guys doing in your blind to keep a 10 and 12-year-old going and wanting to come back?
I think that you take it from the beginning, walking in, and we have blind hunted a couple of times, just a pop-up blind. It is not my favorite, never has been. And my kids have kind of picked up on that as well. We love a tree stand. So we've got 2 double tree stands that we use, or we will just go sit. Like today, we're going to be running and gunning. So it'll be, sit at the edge of a tree, find some scrapes and find a spot to be still. And with kids, that's hard. It is so hard. And going into a hunt with a kid, I think no matter the age, your objective changes, right? It's, yes, I'd love to harvest a deer with them. I'd love for them to harvest a deer, but it's all about teaching. And binos are the first thing that I think of as being something that not only teaches them how to hold and how to look through and how to calm their nerves in order to look through when they see something, but it's a way to entertain.
Yeah.
Gives them a little bit of control at the time to what they see and how they see it. And they're learning how to use the equipment. And rangefinders always are fun to have. You said snacks. Snacks never end. That's my favorite thing.
Yes.
Snacks are the big one. But honestly, we talk a lot, even starting from the walk in, whether we're walking in on public land or we're walking up the mountain to where we're sitting. It's all about, okay, what are we being aware of? There's constantly the whisper of, are you looking around? Are you making sure where you stand, where you take a step is a solid footing? Are you being quiet? How are you carrying what you are carrying? There's just a lot that goes into each moment that we're in it. And even in the stand, I get so how long are we staying? And it turns into, okay, we're going to stay until this time. And there is a solid time. And whether I'm done hunting or not, that is the time that we leave. And it is, okay, what can we do to fill this time? Like you said, it's kind of like, okay, it's dark. Are we being quiet? Usually a nap is taken by them
Okay.
until the sun comes up. but it's okay. Is your safety stuff all together? Do you have your harness on correctly? Are you climbing the stand correctly? Are you holding the things that you need to close enough and secure enough that you're not going to drop something? Are you watching for the squirrels, the birds, the just the wildlife around you? What was that noise? What do you think that noise was? There's constant conversation in tiny whispers. A lot of conversation on, hey, if this happens, this is what we need to do. Or when a doe blows at you and you've been found out, what could we have done differently? So there's always a lesson in everything, positive and negative, that I myself take away from a hunt with a kid, because it's, okay, how is your patience level? Did you give enough rather than take enough from the kids? Did they give enough? Did they give more than they take? And it's a constant barometer of, how are things weighing out? Are you warm enough? Are you, is your camo working? I don't know. It's almost like a science experiment to me, taking kids.
Yeah. And I think going out, you're going to know my success rate today is going to decrease in percentage, right?
Yes.
Of bringing them with.
Yes.
So you have to go out with that mentality. But with that, I've found so much pride in them being able to relay back to me what was just learned. And so what is something, so besides the harvest, because I know that was an incredible moment for you as a mom to have experienced that with him, but what is just something that you are really proud of that they've come back to you with, that have showed, yes, I'm so glad they understand that part?
I have one story. I mean, I have many stories, of course, but I'll give you a positive and a negative, which of course the positive comes from even the negative. But I was on a hunt with my son, and we had the crossbow, and we had a doe come up, perfect range. Like, I knew where she was coming. I could see where she was going. I knew that he could have taken the shot. And so I was getting everything set up, and we were whispering, and I was saying, okay, at this point, you can't move. We're going to count down. And he looked at me and he said, Mom, I don't think I've practiced enough. I don't think I can take an ethical shot today. And at that point in time, my eyes welled up with tears. And I thought to myself, this isn't because he doesn't want to take a shot, because the kid wanted to harvest a deer like none other. It wasn't because he was scared of it. It was because he did not feel confident in a shot, and he didn't want to take a shot that he didn't feel confident in. And that showed maturity to me. Even when he was 9, it showed a maturity as a hunter, not as a child or as an adult. It just showed maturity as a hunter. And he handed me back the crossbow. I took the shot, and then he helped me track her and gut her and pull her to our vehicle. And so he was fully a part of it, but he did not regret that decision at all. He stood firm in it, and he still would today, that he could not in good conscience take a shot that he thought he couldn't take. And I was extremely proud of that.
That's
not
incredible.
Too many people, even adults, would necessarily vocalize that, right? They might think it, and they might say, oh, I just didn't have a shot. But to be honest with yourself and with somebody with you, hey, I am not ready to take an ethical shot right this minute. I need more practice.
But even kudos to you as that parent that accepted that
And didn't push it. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, instead of saying, no, you're good. You're good. Don't worry. You're going to be good. I can see you're straight on. Go ahead and do it.
Mm-hmm.
So good for you for giving him that, because that's huge too.
Yeah, I think that if I had pushed that day, my biggest fear would be that even if he did take a good shot, that he would have regretted pushing in that push that I pushed him. There's a positive push. There's positive encouragement. Don't get me wrong on that. But if he had taken a bad shot and I had pushed him, he might have never hunted again.
Right.
And that's the last thing that we want to do as hunters mentoring somebody else, is to push somebody too fast into taking a harvest. So yeah, that was probably something that I will always hold near to me. The negative one was I had both kids. My husband was out of town, and I had both kids in a ground blind on public land during archery season. And they were arguing. I had one on one side, one on the other. They were arguing back and forth, even under whispers. I was like, we are not getting anything today. This is not going to happen. I had all the snacks. I had all the things. I was prepared, and it just wasn't happening. And all of a sudden, a doe busted us. I didn't even see her, but she busted us. I heard her blowing, stamping her feet, like she was angry. And the kid said, "What was that?" And I said, "You just got caught."
Yeah.
You just got caught. And I think that was kind of a starting point of, like that. I was frustrated. I had to kind of calm my patience down. I had to regain my composure. But it was something that we all walked away from. And honestly, since then, we haven't had that issue. And it was needed. As frustrating as it was a lesson that was needed, that they then carry with them, and they think, "Oh, remember that time? I need to be still." Yeah.
I think so many of us learned from those bad experiences.
And,
unfortunately, I feel like, because you can know all the things going into it, and then still.
I mean, I've been blown at by a doe. Like, I've been, even by myself, I've been found out and called out on it by deer, and I've spooked them, and I have learned tremendous lessons from those events happening. So it was just a rite of passage.
Yep. Do you and your husband get to hunt together?
We actually hunted for the first time together this past spring or late winter. We went on a conservation goose hunt together, and that was our first hunt ever together. Wow. And then actually this past weekend, we hunted solo the whole weekend, but in the same area. And then the last day, we sat in a tree stand together, and we didn't see anything, but we actually, that was our first deer hunt together.
Wow. So why haven't you hunted together more?
It has been a draw straws to who goes with the kids, and then having two kids, one of us takes one place and one of us takes the other another place. So it has just been the culmination of timing, with kids being, whether it was too young when we only had, one seater tree stands, and, having a 2-year-old, right?
Right.
It was a draw straws the night before who gets to go.
Yeah. So what was your experience? I mean, now that you've you are very much each to your own hunter right now. So, and I can't relate with this because my husband's the one that brought me into it, and like, he's my favorite hunting partner in the world.
Yeah.
And so tell me what it's like to have this family relationship, right? In this, or this mutual, marriage where you guys have both become your own type of hunter on each end, and now you're coming together after 7 years of doing this individually. What's that like?
Well, it's kind of, my daughter hit it on the head once. She said, well, when I go with Daddy, he's much louder than you are. Now he's also, I mean, I'm 5'2", my husband's 6'2". I think that women are a little bit, I can't say that, not all women probably, but I am a little stealthier going into places. I sit very quietly. I don't move a whole lot. There's just and yet on Sunday we were sitting in a stand and my husband's moving around and actually answered the phone at one point. And I was like, dude,
you're worse than the kids. I've taught the kids better than you.
Right. And so, but at the same time, my husband's gotten 3 deer this year and I've gotten 1. So, there's opportunity there and there's skill there. And then there's just a little bit of luck. And so it's different. It's kind of like living by yourself and then living with a partner all of a sudden. You have your way of doing things and then all of a sudden somebody comes in who does them differently. But honestly, we do bring different things to the table when it comes to hunting. And whether it's, hey, I can last longer in colder weather. I can hold him out there. Hey, let's stay another hour. Whereas he would be like, and we're done. Or it's his ability to see things coming, to kind of see a pattern and figure out a couple things. Hey, this is coming in. I bet this is where the crosshairs will happen. And butchering down deer, I used to work in surgery. And so I love butchering a deer and then doing the processing part. And it has been teaching him different things. So we bring something different to the table that makes us as a team a little bit better.
Right.
But it doesn't take away the frustration.
Right.
Yeah.
But I'm curious towards the portion at the beginning so I'm assuming he hunted since he was a kid.
His grandfather took him when he was 12. And I think he did, dove and stuff like that. And then he took his first deer when he was 12, but then he didn't hunt again until, honestly, I don't think that he hunted again until we first got married.
Okay.
And that was 17 years ago. So,
so for 10 years he hunted until you started. Yeah. So what was that like for him? I mean, has he ever shared where it's like, well, this is my passion. This is my little getaway. And now I have to share my time out in the woods with my wife and when she gets to go and it takes like, how has that worked?
He's been very gracious about it. I think that in the long run, whereas he would bring home 1, maybe 2 deer a year, if that, we now have had 4 deer in the freezer last year and going on 5 this year. So it has bringing our whole family in. He said this the other day. He said, I wouldn't have wanted it any other way. The only downside is that having 4 hunters in the family, that's a lot of a budget that we have to work on.
Right.
That it took it from wearing hand-me-down camo and mismatched camo for him and just going out and hunting to bringing all of us in it and needing a little bit extra here and there and figuring out the logistics of it. But I think that that was one of the things that he welcomed us into versus ever feeling any kind of, well, this is my thing. He's got plenty of his things. This has been a fun hour thing. Yeah.
I love that. And my husband is the same way. He's he loves that we do it. But he definitely, his hunting time, has decreased because with the toddlers, one of us get to go, or or we wait till, the 6-year-old's in school, and then we put the 2-year-old in the backpack and then we go. But we all enjoy having that one-on-one time out hunting on our by ourselves. But I think for the people that can share that with their spouse or their partner is a beautiful thing, because you have a different connection in your relationship. And I don't know that I can necessarily explain it, but to share a passion, whether it's any kind of hobby, is a special thing.
No, I agree. And I think that whether you're hunting with your spouse, significant other, whoever you're hunting with on a normal basis, whether it's side by side or balancing it out with that person, you yourself become a better hunter because it's not selfish, right? I think that we as a community do a great job of celebrating each other's victories. Whether they're harvest or not, we do a good job of it. And I find so much joy. Somebody actually said the other day, how does it feel that your husband's bringing in more meat this year than you? And I said, it feels great. My freezer's full. It feels awesome.
The end goal.
Yeah, that's the end goal. And dadgummit, he got his first deer this year on public land after all of these years. And there's joy in that. I've helped him butcher and process each one of them. So it's not like I am not a part of it. I'm fully a part of it. And I celebrate that. So there's no jealousy in it, except when he gets to go and I don't. There's a little bit of that, but it's still a celebration that, he needs his time as well. And he needs some time like I do to have that moment alone. And so it's not necessarily a sacrifice. It's a joyful way of giving somebody that time. But we've definitely grown tenfold when our kids joined in as hunters, individually and together. I have grown more as a hunter having somebody hunt with me than by myself.
What do you mean by that? Dig into that a little bit.
There's only so much. I mean, we're constantly learning, right? As hunters, there's constantly something else to learn every time that you go out there. But the second you bring somebody along, whether it's a kid or a significant other or a mentee, like whoever you are bringing alongside of yourself, it's one of those learn it, do it, teach it situations. Yes. And along that way, I can learn so much from the learning it part, from the reading about it, from the taking in all the information that I can. But then the second that I do it, it expounds that, right? It throws it into application. Then when you teach it, it almost takes me back to where I first was when I first started hunting. And it reminds me of how far I've come, but it also reminds me that I was there once too. So how can I teach this in a way that I can reflect and do it better? And I don't know, it reminds me of rules, regulations. It reminds me of patience with myself as well as who I'm with. And I think it just grows us as better hunters to do that. So it's a constant evolution of learning, and it's just a different way of doing it. So I think it makes us a more well-rounded hunter when you're teaching somebody else.
Absolutely. And I can say, this year, in the number of people I've helped and hunted with, I have found more pride and joy watching them harvest their first bird than I am going out and doing it. Oh, hey, speaking of bird dogs, I want to take a quick second to share an opportunity for you to help the AKC Canine Health Foundation, which is the largest nonprofit funder of health research focused solely on dogs. If you're one of my Patreon patrons, a portion of your $5 per month goes to the AKC Canine Health Foundation. I've partnered with them to fundraise for 3 initiatives: hemangiosarcoma, epilepsy, and tick-borne disease. I'll be mailing out one of their calendars to each person that donates, so head over to www.akcchf.org/birddogbabe to designate a dollar amount and which initiative you would like to support. I'll throw in a cool Bird Dog Babe sticker in the mailing as well. Come on, Bird Dog Babe community, let's help this amazing foundation get closer to answers on these issues that are affecting our bird dogs.
There's joy that you get from your own harvest, but there is nothing like watching somebody that you have taught or even that you're just supporting. It's a different kind of joy.
Mm-hmm. And it brings you back to how you learned as well. So not necessarily that you had a mentor with you, but
I know, but it is still learning. And
you had such a different introduction that's so unique, and oh man, you're brave.
People have said that in the past, and it's, if you want something, my husband tells me that all the time, Amy, if you want it, you by darndest get out there and do it. If you don't want it, it's not going to happen.
Yep.
So it's all or nothing.
And have you done mentoring with other women?
We have. I have been on a couple of women's hunts, but I have been on hunts where I was still the newbie. Going on a duck hunt last year, I'd never been on a duck hunt before, so I was still learning. And going on the goose hunt, I felt like I was still learning. I actually have been talking to our Tennessee Wildlife Federation, and they have a hunting and fishing academy here in the state. And I just signed up as a volunteer mentor. So that is going to be changing this year. They need women out there. Every state needs women in hunter safety and in any kind of teaching capacity in mentoring. They said they had a couple of women come through this past year that, you go through a course over the weekend and then they put you up in a tree stand with a mentor. And so you meet a man and then you go sit in a tree stand for a whole day with this strange man who is great. I mean, he's a hunter and everything, but can you imagine having women up there watching over and being able to talk through situations, and just the comfort level that I would have in that? They need women out there. So my hand went up. And it'll be exciting to be a part of that this year.
And so what is it that you think, and it's, I know this is a real demand to have women mentor other women. And, and I got into it from men, and up until probably 2 years ago is when I've been hunting for 10 years. So 2 years ago is when other women I finally found to start hunting with.
Right.
And now when I do go out with somebody, it usually is another woman, which has been awesome. But, I just look at this, like when you're looking for a doctor, or, when I moved, it's like, do you want your gynecologist to be a man or a woman? I'm like, well, I don't, I don't care. They both know what they're digging into, and, if they're both educated in it, no worries. I don't care. Whoever's available, the soonest, whatever. But what do you think it is about women that enjoy being mentored by another woman, or why there is so much demand for these women hunts?
Yeah, I think it's twofold. I think that you could turn it right back around and say, well, why do men like to go on men only hunts? And, I think that there's a comfort level in it. I'm a married woman, and going on a hunt with 3 men that I'm not married to is probably not something that I would necessarily put myself into unless
Mm-hmm.
I knew these men, my husband knew these men. Like, I hate to say it's taboo, but it is something that we as women in the community, as a respect factor for ourselves, I never want to put myself in a position that, that doubt would need to rise. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yep,
On that?
absolutely.
Right.
I think
And
there's
so,
always an internal fear too,
yes,
isn't there? Even being a
yes,
solo hunter, we fear,
yes.
I
I
mean, it could
carry
be
a
a,
pistol with me every single time.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So there's that side of it. There's that taboo side of it. But then there's also the side of it that if you had a mixed, which I think that there are places for this, and I think there's a lot of greatness that comes from it, where a mixed sex hunt would be great.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that when you divide it out, there are questions and there is a guard that goes down, and you're able to be more vulnerable. You're able to ask questions that you might not necessarily feel like are questions you can ask in a mixed group. I don't know, would a man in a mixed group ask a question that might seem less macho than, there's an ease to it. There's a comfort to it. I think that we can learn from each other a little bit more, and that guard can go down. We can have a little bit more fun and relax, not having to, I don't know, peacock up or think that we're better than we actually are. We can actually take a step back and say, I'd like to learn here. I'd like to be able to ask the questions, not just be silent. You know, if I walk in, I've walked into sporting stores, and the assumption right away about me is that I'm there to shop for my significant other.
Right.
Instead of for myself. And that has happened on more than one occasion. And it's frustrating. It's so frustrating.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'm here to buy $1,000 shotgun, but I'm not going to buy it from you now.
Yeah.
I'm going to go somewhere
and
else.
I'm so oblivious to that because I've never felt like I'm different when I'm out in the field. I don't. And
in the field, I don't at all.
Right. But even in society, I really don't. I'm like, when I first started, there was struggles to find, good hunting gear, but I can't say today that it's any different in finding a good pair of brush pants that is going to be a great option for every woman out there.
Right. No. People will ask me all the time, what should I get? And I say, you need to try like 10 different types and not be afraid to send it back.
And then it changes on the weather, right?
Exactly.
Like just when you find one, you're like, oh, there's snow. Now I need to go through 10 more different pairs.
It's all different.
Yeah,
it is. It's true. And it's different for each woman. It's different for each man. And I think that people that go, well, you need this. That's when my red flag goes up, because my first answer is, okay, here are a couple of things that you should try, but I don't know what would be best for you, because you're not me. And I'm not going to sit here and tell you that, well, this worked for me, so it's going to work for you. It might, but it might not.
Right.
And that's okay.
I don't feel that men have any less struggle in that, though. My husband goes through the same thing with brush pants. Like, so I guess I don't see a difference there in, having this separate man from a woman part. And what was interesting, though, when I was out pheasant hunting maybe a month ago, and I was telling a friend this story where it was clearly just me and two dogs out in this open field, and a truck was driving by really slow and stopped and literally just got out in the same field I was in with his dogs. And and I was just like, and I was telling her that story and how bothered I was by it, and she goes, yeah, we're just not there yet. And I'm like, what do you mean? She goes, we're just not there. We're not respected. And I'm like, I don't know that it was that. It could have been a guy that would have done that to another guy.
Right.
But, and I said, no, I was wearing a ponytail and a hat, and he probably couldn't see my ponytail from there, and or that I had boobs from there.
Yeah.
So I don't think it was that, but what do you think? Are we there?
I think it's a double-edged sword. I think that it might not even be a double-edged sword. I feel like we are fighting the fight on two ends. I think that we will take steps forward in momentum with men in our community and gaining the respect that we've worked hard for. And I think that there are a lot of men out there that do respect real women who hunt, real hunters. And then I feel like we take a couple steps back when women come into the community who aren't true and ethical and transparent, and they're just not real hunters. And I think that sadly, it's our own kind that pull us backwards sometimes. So I feel like we're fighting on both sides of that sword. And I think that we are in a positive light. I think we're on the positive side of that, but I still feel the fight. And that's, just coming off of a conversation recently with a company or a page that posted a picture of a woman who is not a hunter, but was wearing camo bibs and holding 2 ducks and a shotgun with nothing on underneath the bibs, and the bibs are unzipped way down low and everything is showing. And they posted it and said, would you take her hunting? And so somebody says, well, it's her fault. She took the picture. And I said, yeah, 100%. I 100% hold her responsible for that. But number 2, the group that then reposted it with that comment, with that blatant, degrading put down of a comment, even as a joke, it's not funny, because you just took what she did and validated it by putting it out there. Right.
Right.
And then you have the people who like it. They might not comment all underneath it, but they liked it. So you've got it on all of these. It's not just one person's fault. It's everybody's fault. So you've got the woman that's hitting us from one side with even taking a picture like this. She's not a hunter, yet she's posing to be a hunter. None of us would do that because it's freezing cold when you're duck hunting, and or you don't or you're in the marshes with mosquitoes and
talk about chafed nipples.
Yes. So there's
let's make it real
of it. Right. There's the woman who is pushing us down, and then you have society who's liking it, who's putting us down, and then you have a page that glorified it, that just throws us back a couple steps in our pursuit forward in being respected in the community
aspect. Yeah.
So I think that there are aspects of that, and then you have other sides of it where you see honest to goodness, real women out there hunting day in out, either to put food on their table or to donate it to people or to have a trophy that they've been working for. Either way, whatever their reasons for it, they're doing it good and they're working hard, and they're doing it respectfully. And so those women should be highlighted. But, and I hope that people like you and me continue to highlight them in stories, to get their words out there and to celebrate their victories, and put them ahead of what the rest of society thinks that we are.
Right. But I think even what I've been finding in this whole social media thing, I had no idea about. And, I mean, you can
It's been eye-opening.
Oh my gosh, Amy. And
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, I'm just going to start a separate account from my personal one so that, it can just focus on the podcast side of it and,
Right.
and educating and connecting. And so what I'm finding with all of this is you can actually buy to have followers. So I'm like,
Right.
oh my gosh, how does that person have that many followers and, they're getting all these sponsorships. I'm like, and I've never actually known that they've hunted, because every 500 photos are all selfies.
Right.
And, so how do you find, authenticity, even knowing if the person is getting after it or not?
Yeah. I think, I've had interviews with people, and this is just brutal honesty. I've had interviews with people that I have not aired because of things that I found out after the interview.
Okay.
And I think that it takes a lot of investigation. I think that, you can tell if you look at somebody's page and they have hundreds of thousands of followers, but they only have one comment under each page. You kind of have to guess that there's some buying going on, right?
Mm-hmm.
I have always said, I don't care how many followers I have. I care about engagement. I care about the conversations. I care about what people have to say, not in respect to me, that's what people say about me isn't going to change who I am, but I care about what people have to say when they're learning. I do care if somebody doesn't agree with me, because let's have a conversation about that. You might not change my mind and I might not change your mind, but let's have a civil conversation about it and be able to still support each other in a positive way. But it's more about engagement than the follows and the likes. And it stinks that companies use people to advertise who do buy those likes, who do buy those follows. And I think that sporting companies are trying harder, especially with women. I've had a couple of companies that I've interviewed who have said, we have stopped looking at the number of people that follow. We have started looking at the engagement. We've started looking at the comments and the comments back. We've started looking at the conversations versus the numbers. And I respect the hell out of companies that do that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I hadn't, I've heard about it, but until recently, a friend who really gets after it. So upland bird hunting, training her dogs, and she's big game hunting. She's working hard, volunteering for conservation groups. She spends a lot of time mentoring people. And there was some kind of a connection where there was somebody that wanted to do highlight videos of women hunting. And once this connection was made, he asked her, well, how many followers do you have on Instagram?
Mm-hmm.
And it was like, I don't know what the number was. It was under 1,000. And that came to a halt.
Yeah.
So
conversation stopped.
Yep. And then just to come to find out, someone else who had a lot of followings under that hunted big game mainly, then went out bird hunting for this video. That had
So
never been bird hunting before.
Right.
So
in essence, it was modeling through. Yeah.
Well, yeah. And so it's just kind of been a big wake up call in, what is authentic, what isn't, and then there was that article of the women who hunt, and that brought up other things. But it's like, who cares if a woman wants to do her hair and wear makeup when she goes out hunting?
Right.
Girlfriend, if that's what gets you away from your screaming toddlers for a couple hours,
do it.
And makes you feel amazing, go grab that eyelash curler and make it happen. Go to do it and feel good about what you're doing. But it's like this gray line of, what's real and what isn't.
Mm-hmm.
And then you bring up the Huntress portion of it and different conversation.
Yeah. I've had that question asked a couple of times about the word huntress, and I used to be 100% against it. And I still, if you ask me who I am, I'm a hunter.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a hunter. I'm a fisherman. I'm an angler. There's no pronoun that needs to go in front of it to describe it. I talked to a dear friend of mine, Lisa Jaster, and she has, what is it? She says, let's negate I'll have to send it to you. Anyways, delete the adjective is what it is. And it's like, hey, if I look at my husband and I say, he is a male hunter, I'd never say that, right?
Mm-hmm.
I would say he is a hunter. But when they look at me, they go, she is a female hunter. Well, you've already defined me as a she, so you don't have to say female hunter. And so in my mind, I've always said, well, you don't have to say she is a huntress, because there's that double pronoun again, that double adjective that describes me as a woman. And I don't necessarily have to put emphasis twice on the fact that I'm a female. I'm just a hunter. She is a hunter. But huntress goes back for centuries and millennia, and there was strength in that name so long ago, and it has come down to such a dirty word in our community. But there are so many women out there right now that carry that name on Instagram, that carry it well. Mm-hmm. And so I hope by the end of time that word is no longer a dirty word, that it is no longer used as such a negative, put in quotations, well, she is a huntress in quotations. I think that people should be proud of that name, of that descriptor, but it is going to be used both ways for a long time, until somebody stops using it in that form or fashion. And I don't think that'll ever happen, but there are good women using it out there that are bringing light to it. But no, I'm a hunter. I am a hunter.
And you're a nurse.
I used to be a scrub nurse. Yes.
Yes.
I'm not an RN, but I was a scrub nurse for cardiac surgery, pediatric cardiac surgery for a long time.
Right. But there's men.
But I'm not a female
that
nurse.
Are a nurse. Correct.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's what I was getting at. So
yeah,
a nurse, a baker, not a bakeress.
Yeah. I'm a photographer. Yeah.
Right. And I look at it because, and I say nurse because the initial image of nurse, you see a female, right? Well,
yes,
maybe not so much, but when you say hunter, your initial image is
male.
Mm-hmm.
Well, so there's proof and point in that. They did an article 2 years ago. I had an albino deer go underneath my stand, and I took video, and it went viral. It went everywhere. Fox News picked it up. It was all over the world. There are articles everywhere. And under the comment section, when the title was Hunter Sees Albino Deer, it was automatically assumed I was male. Did he shoot it? Well, did he do this? Well, did he do that? And they didn't read the article to see that it was a woman. But if the title just said hunter, I promise you 80% of the comments were he. And so, it is a proven point that if the word hunter is very male.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So why
we're changing that, right?
Right. But why is it such a controversial word? Why is huntress controversial? I don't understand the portion of it, because
I don't think it should be.
Okay.
So I do not believe that it should be. I believe that it should be used as a strong word, in a positive way. I think that society has used it as a negative word, almost like comparing it to mistress, right?
Right. Good point.
And so it has been used in derogatory term as a derogatory term versus a strong, solid descriptor. Yeah.
So what would your feelings be if after you had a podcast interview, or if you wrote an article, or somebody interviewed you for an article, I should say, and they slapped that word Huntress on there? They said, this is a episode or an article with Amy Hall, the Huntress. What would your impression, your reaction be to that?
That has happened. And my initial feeling was, oh, just call me a hunter. Because the comments that would come after that, it would be, it automatically shoves it into, and not everybody, but it can shove it into, well, what kind of hunter is she? What kind of huntress is she? And yet at the same time, I stand there and go, I mean, technically I am. And so hopefully if people listen or read to what comes after that word, they will see a positive light shine from it versus the negative that can come from it.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm not against it. I'm not necessarily, I don't necessarily enjoy it because I do like to be called a hunter, but I wouldn't lose my cool over it by any means.
In just I guess it's more of the terms that the word is being used in, really, than just using the word in general.
Yeah. If somebody was putting me down and calling me one, then come on. Then we can have a conversation on the side, in a direct message to each other. But I don't. Yeah. Just call me a hunter. Just call me a hunter.
Because I hunt.
I hunt just like you. I hunt just like our goals are the same. How we get there, whether we are male or female, are completely different. And I think that kind of ties us back to the beginning. I hunt to the fruition of a harvest. You hunt to the fruition of a harvest. A man hunts to the fruition of a harvest. But in the middle, how you get there defines who you are. Whether it's ethical or unethical, whether it is bow hunting or rifle, whether it is whatever it is, at the end of the day, what came of it? What lessons did you learn? Or did you get a harvest? Those are the victories. And we all are hunting toward that same goal.
You nailed that.
Yeah.
Love it.
That's it. Let's keep it simple, people.
Don't look so much into it. Why is this even a topic?
Yeah.
It doesn't need to be.
No. Let's be transparent. Let's be authentic. Let's be ethical. Let's hunt. Let's
hunt. Absolutely. Yeah. And I enjoy hunting with my guy friends just as much as I do my girlfriends. So
I do too. I do too.
Yeah. So I want to talk about the podcasts you do. And so you have Her Wild Outdoors, and that is your personal podcast.
Yes.
And you also are the host for the Miss Pursuit podcast. So first tell me what, and I know because I'm a listener, I enjoy both of them. But tell our listeners about Her Wild Outdoors podcast.
So Her Wild Outdoors started because I wanted to hear more stories about women who were like me, that hunted big game, that hunted birds, that hunted whatever they hunted. They were not exactly like me, but they have the same passions as me. And so I wanted to hear those stories. And so I started the podcast and decided that since the podcast, maybe other people would like to hear that too. So I aired it. And so if anybody's listening, which I'm sure you've got a great list of people who are listening, but those who are listening, that podcast is more for me than anybody else. And I hope that people enjoy it as they listen, but I take so much out of those conversations, encouragement wise, friend wise. I feel like it kind of closes the circle a little bit inward rather than feeling so distanced from other women who hunt. It makes our community feel a little bit smaller, and close knit, which is what I need. So that's how that started. Miss Pursuit, Carly, I had interviewed for a podcast that I had guest hosted for, and she said, "Hey, would you like to host a podcast for us?" And I thought about it for a little bit. And so I signed up for a year to help podcast for her and contribute my voice to her podcast and kind of get some of her, the people that contribute for the articles and recipes and all of that on her platform, kind of get some of those women interviewed and give their backstory of who they are and how they have gotten to where they are. And those women are pretty amazing. But we've also interviewed some great companies who are female supported and other groups, other female hunting platform supported. So it's not just hers. She's definitely a big proponent of supporting all women out there. It's not competitive, it's supportive. So it's been fun to be a part of her group there for a little bit. And but I'm excited about where her Wild Outdoors is coming. It has been every other week, but starting in March, it will start every week. So it'll be exciting to see how it goes and how it moves, and whether we have 100 listeners or if it grows more than that. I will still be taking away from it exactly what I started out wanting to take away from it. So right.
And that's exactly how I feel with mine as well. And it's so much more for me. And even though some of the topics, I'm very familiar with, and I still ask all the questions to the guests that I may know the answers to, but I just feel like me and bird dogs has been 16, almost 17 years now. And if I had known a lot of this stuff when I started, I just like, how much further would I be along right now?
Right.
And all the Googling and all the YouTube videos, to try to learn and figure things out. And so it's been such a fun way to learn more, because I'm just addicted to learning and, and having that connection. But are you finding with yours, like, I would say, gosh, several times a week, sometimes daily, I have listeners reaching out, just asking questions, getting advice. And I love that. I love that. And are you finding the same thing in yours, because you are kind of making it so personal and talking about your journey and your passion?
Yes, I do. I love getting reached out to. I am first, though, to say I do not have all the answers. And so if I don't have that answer, I probably know somebody who does. So I can point you in the right direction. I will never give out advice that I do not know anything about. Because that's the last thing that I would want to do, is to pretend I do and steer somebody in the wrong direction. So, if somebody reaches out, which I have had, and I don't know the answer, I can point that person to at least 2 or 3 people who do have that answer.
There's plenty of that on social media if they want to get 100 opinions.
Oh yeah. And I do. I've got my opinions and I share them, but I'm also pretty I stick pretty solid to saying, this is my opinion. This is not set in stone. This does not mean that you don't need to be looking for another answer. You need to find what's right for you. Try what I say with a grain of salt that it might not work. And it might work. So I'm still learning. I'm still trying things that sometimes it doesn't work for me. My husband guts 100% differently than me. But I tried for years trying to gut the way that he did. And finally it took me an hour to gut a deer trying to do it his way. And one day I said, screw it. I'm going to try it my way. And it cut gutting in half. It cut the time in half. And, sometimes you just got to try something new and see if it works.
Right. And I think, like you said earlier, we each have our own journey. We each have our own reasons and ways and are identifying uniquely as a hunter. And it's hard to give one answer that is the right one for everybody. It's same thing like, how do you train a dog? Or it's like, well, there's
a million
ways.
answers.
Right. What's your dog? But it's the same thing when women, or a guy posts, what shotgun should I get? Which pair of pants should I get? Well, or what breed of dog should I get? Yeah. I just saw that one 2 days ago. What breed of dog should I get for hunting? And it's like,
well, what are you hunting?
So there's like right. There's 500 comments, of everybody that's passionate about their own breed. It's like, holy cow.
Yeah.
There's so much more into it, and it's hard to say there's one right answer for everything, but it's fun to kind of get into it with people of finding out more and what may help them.
Yeah. Well, the thing that I look at it is, the more answers I get to that, the more conversations that I have, the more I talk to different women who are shaped one way or another, who are stronger in some ways than others. The more answers I get to that, the more different women can listen in and say, okay, I'm hunting more like this one woman. I'm shaped more like this one woman. I have to do things. I'm solo more like this woman, or I'm a team person more like this woman. And so you can kind of piece together from different conversations and figure out what works for you. Because again, we are a smorgasbord of a puzzle, and one piece that doesn't fit one way, another person might have a suggestion that does fit.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep,
yeah.
Absolutely.
Or man, dadgummit. I have learned more from men in my hunting time than from women. I'm just now starting to learn from women, and I love it.
Yep. It's been a different game piece, hasn't it?
Yes. Yeah. I think that if we were all one-sided, it would be so boring. And I think that men bring into my life a piece that if I didn't have it, I would be so boring. There's something that everybody brings to me that makes up me. And so I like to be more well-rounded than just one way.
And now that your kids are hunting, they're going to have a completely different way of sharing their experiences with you and feedback as well. So
yes. Yeah. Just being open to listening to it. That's the most important thing.
Well, thanks, Amy. Was there anything else you wanted to add to our conversation today?
I think that was it. I think I mean, of course we could talk and talk and talk and talk and talk. There's so many things to talk about, but
we could.
I mean, if you are, I don't know, you're not going to find the perfect hunter when you come and look at my page. You're not going to find the everything is hunky-dory and beautiful when you come to my page. I posted on Sunday about the mistakes that I made on Saturday, which in essence created a non-harvest for me twice. And that's how hunting is. It's not perfect. And so you're going to find authenticity in my page. You probably will find a couple things that you go, where you just dumb. And yes, if a deer comes under my stand, sometimes I just go dumb. Because I get shaky and excited and my heart is pounding and it just happens. So, I don't make excuses for it. I just say, dadgummit, I messed up today.
Yep.
And that happens. So, don't expect perfection from me. And I hope that's okay.
You're so authentic and real. And that's what I just love about you.
Thank you.
Well, Amy, thank you so much for this amazing
You're welcome.
conversation today.
It was fun.
It was very fun and very good. How can we find you on Instagram, get in touch with you?
Yeah. You can
Social media.
Yeah. Amy Hall _Hunter is Instagram, or you can go look at Her Wild Outdoors on Instagram. Miss Pursuit is also on there on Instagram, that you can find some of the podcasts. But send me a message. I'd love to chit chat with you. It's wide open. Just let's chat. I'm good with that.
Thank you so much, Amy.
You're welcome.
Thanks for listening to another episode of the Bird Dog Babe podcast. If you enjoyed this episode and learned something from the content, please share it with your friends. Please subscribe, rate, and review this podcast on whichever platform you're listening from. Check out the show notes for links to references from this episode, as well as info on how to connect through Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. If you're loving this podcast and want to support the production and content, please consider becoming one of my Patreon patrons. Being a patron connects us more on a personal level, where I'm able to help answer questions and give advice. My husband William and I have bred, owned, and trained AKC Master Hunters, Field Champions, NAVDA VCs, and AKC Show Champions. We're excited to not only share what we've learned, but also listen from previous and future episode guests for additional content. Go to patreon.com/TheBirdDogBabe and $5 per month and you're in. Through the Patreon platform, 5% is donated towards conservation and an additional 5% is donated to the AKC Canine Health Foundation. Until next week, Bird Dog Babes, keep them versatile.